Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn Orff, and today is July 17th, 2024. And I'm so happy to be back in my office, my home with all of you. We've kind of been here and there and everywhere the last couple of weeks. So I'm happy to be back with all of you on what is National Emoji Day. So, do you have an emoji that speaks to you? Do you have one that you use all of the time? I know for me, it's the laugh with the tears coming down because that's usually me. I have what I'd like to call a hearty laugh. And when something gets me, the tears just start to come out. But my son gave me a few years ago this fabulous poop emoji keychain, and that has just stuck with me forever. And I get a lot of comments. 8-year-old boy, right? That was my Mother's Day gift, by the way. 8-year-old boy, what else are you expecting? But still to this day, when I drop my car off somewhere, someone always makes a comment about it. So I don't try to give a nice valet key. I give the poop emoji. So anyways, we're very excited because not only is it National Emoji Day, but we have Sami from our marketing team here to talk to us about the do's and maybe even some of the don'ts when it comes to using them in your social media marketing. But today we have one of the most fun and most inspiring women in travel. She is also our keynote speaker next week for Destination Success. Please welcome back to KHM Today, Dondra Ritzenthaler, in her new role as Chief Executive Officer of Azamara Cruises. Hello.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for letting me come back on your show. And I have to tell you, I didn't know it was Emoji Day, and I love your poop emoji. It's so cute. And mine is the one where it winks with the wink with the heart.
Yes,
Use it all the time.
yes. I just, there's such a fun way. I don't put it in most of my communication, but every once in a while, it just screams. You gotta put that out there for whoever you're writing to. Um, we're so excited to have you here. I have to tell you that when you left your former role with Celebrity in 2023, I feel like there was a little bit of this like, oh, where'd she go? There was this sadness because you have always presented yourself as someone who's energetic, enthusiastic, and more than anything, just a champion of the travel advisor. And so tell me, what was it about Azamara that had you saying, I'm getting back in the game?
So thank you, first of all, and I appreciate your sweet words. And it is funny because I do have a ton of energy. And I found myself in my home. I always had a goal that when I turned 60, I was going to retire. And when you create a goal, you want to achieve that goal, right?
Right.
And I know most of you on this call are very much goal oriented as well, or you probably wouldn't be doing this today, right? And so I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set it out. I'm going to live my life in a way that at 60 I can retire. And at 60, I retired. And at 60 and 5 months later, I was climbing the walls.
You
I
had
was,
organized everything you could have in your house.
you have no idea. It's actually cost my husband a lot of money because I got rid of all the clothes that I had that I didn't like anymore. But of course, I went and got new ones instead. I cleaned out the pantry, everything you can clean out. I actually got diving certified. I did everything. And honestly, by noon every day, I was like, this is not going to work for me. And I missed it. And honestly, I miss people like you, and I miss people like KHM and, those types of things. And so about 5 months later, I did get a call from Dan Hanrahan, who I used to work for at Celebrity, who was on the board at the private equity firm that owns Azamara. And he and I had worked together. And you know how normally that's the way it works.
Hmm.
You get an opportunity because you worked with someone who knows your work ethic, knows your energy, knows your drive. And when he called and said, we have an opportunity for you to be the CEO of Azamara Cruises, I got to tell you, I couldn't say yes fast enough,
Yeah.
because it's not every day that as a 60-year-old female who's only been in the front part of the business, meaning running sales and marketing for 40 years, that you get the chance to be the
Hmm.
CEO. And so very humbly, I said, I got a lot to prove to the world and to myself that I can do this, but do it in a way that rewards people's integrity. It lets, lead your team in a way that lets people know how much you value them and
Mhm.
show the world that you can be the leader and create an organization that's driven for results, but also in a way that makes people feel loved and show the world that that can be done. And that's why
I
I did
feel
it.
I feel like I've seen a lot of you showing that love in different articles through different trade publications, as I believe you visited every single ship.
I've seen every ship. And in fact, this is my 6th week on the job, and I've been in 3 countries and 7 states so far.
You're not letting the grass grow, that's for sure.
No, I'm in it to win it, my friend. I'm in it to win it.
What has surprised you most about Azamara?
So, what's really surprised me is, believe it or not, literally in 2007, we brought Azamara out because
Right.
it was supposed to be just 2 extra ships on the Celebrity Cruises brand. And at the last minute, our chairman, Richard Fain, decided that he was going to make it its own brand. And so Dan and myself and a couple of other people actually named the brand Azamara. We named Journey and Quest. We named the specialty restaurants. And that's the last time that I had actually seen the ships. I had not seen the ships since 2007.
Wow.
And what really surprised me when I had the opportunity to go spend 3 or 4 days on each one of the ships is how beautiful they are. Because, in our business, when you hear that a ship's 20 years old or something, you automatically think, oh my God, it may look old, it may look tired. And so I had that fear. And oh my God, when I walked onto those ships and I saw how beautiful they were, that was the one thing that really surprised me. The other thing that really surprised me was how much our guests love our crew and how special our crew is. Because having been in this business for 25 years, every cruise line says we have the best crew.
Mhm.
And honestly, I've never met a crew member I didn't love on any cruise line. But there's something extremely special about the relationship between our guest and our crew that makes people actually come back over and over and over. And while I knew the crew is always magical, I just didn't understand how magical our
Mhm.
crew really is.
So let's talk about the guest satisfaction, because one of the things that I think is so interesting about the brand is it's kind of elusive, right? It's the speakeasy of the cruise industry. It's
I
it's
love
kind of
that.
like, do you know about them? Do you not know about them? Why do you know about them and I don't know about them? Like, it's just kind of, it's always been this, like, almost, if you're in the know, you're in the know.
True.
And you've got that repeat. And I think I heard you speak in an event recently, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said, nope, we're shouting it from the rooftops from here on out. Everyone's going to know our name. So tell me about that.
So, it's interesting, and I love the fact that you said speakeasy. That's actually really cute. I may steal that and
You
use
can
it.
feel it.
Thank you. So, in our cruising business, you have the big major brands that, of course, everybody knows about. And we love that because the big brands bring cruisers to the cruising industry. And we need that. And then what happens is that people decide, I really like cruising, but
Mhm.
I really want to go and get much more into the destination, which, by the way, is the number one reason people take a cruise
Mhm.
is to go to the destination. But what you find sometimes is that you get in at 9 in the morning and you leave at 4 in the afternoon. And so you really don't get immersed. Where we come in is people say, I like cruising, but I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more of that immersive destination experience. So, what we do is you'll come in at 8 in the morning as a guest and leave the next day at 4.
Mm.
And so you get all day, you get to experience the destination at night, which never happens. And then the next day, do something totally different so that you really understand whether it's Bordeaux, whether it's Seville, whether it's, the Easter Islands that you can go to. And what is cool about that is that it is a totally different cruising
Mhm.
experience. But because it is so unique, to your point, And because it's not the typical, we do the same thing every 7 nights rotation, it is a little bit more of a, you got to really know it, which is, by the
Mhm.
way, why we depend so much on what you do and our travel advisors that work with us every day, because our product really has to be sold, and you have to help people interpret what it is that we do. But once you understand it and you go, the repeat ratio is the highest I've ever seen in being in this business for more than 30 years. Our guests absolutely come back over and over and over because we don't do the same thing over and over and over. And so you can literally go and do a 12 night intensive Greece, and then you can go and do South Africa and do an African safari. We partner with Mikado Tours to do that. And each time you go, it's truly something different.
Is there something you can like allude to that's coming that's new that you're super excited about?
I actually can. And it's funny. That's what you get when you have me on. So it's not open for sale yet, but I think it's going to be a huge win. Is that in addition to these things that I just shared with you, we do these very special cruises, like we do the Monte Carlo Grand Prix cruise,
Mhm.
and we do the British Isles cruise. And so what we do, because we stay in port longer or overnight, it gives us the ability to actually be in a place when the Monte Carlo Grand Prix happens. Well, the eclipse in the literally the solar eclipse in 2026, we are actually going to have two ships that actually go through in Europe the actual solar eclipse, and it's going to open fairly soon for sale. And
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's going to be the biggest hit, because people want to be, they want to experience things like that.
Right.
And then we're going to do the things that I just mentioned to you, but even more. We're looking for even more exciting things like the Grand Prix around the world, but those really special things. And the other thing that we're going to do that we haven't done as much in the past is when we're sitting in the Sydney Harbor in Australia, and most people on a cruise will get off, they'll go to the Sydney Opera House, they'll take a beautiful picture, and then they'll go and get back on the ship. We are going to allow people, as part of what we will offer them, to go to a Sydney Opera House performance at night and then go back to the ship and use it as the hotel. So it's those types of things that we can do that really separate us from everybody else. We actually say the difference is night and day.
Now, is are those sorts of events, are those the Oz Amazing experiences?
No, no,
That's totally different. So
totally different.
I've got amazing experiences, and then I'm gonna have something on top of that.
And I'm so grateful you ask about that, because I'm trying to make sure I'm not just doing a commercial. I know you'd be mad at me if I did that with you.
No, 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 no. I think this is just so fascinating. I forget whoever's listening. This is just us. We're having wine at this point.
I love talking to you. So no, actually, let me give you the math aspect, right? Because when something is important, you measure it, right?
Mhm.
So number one, we go to places that the big ships can't go to. They're just too big. They can't get in. Our little ship only holds 700 guests, and it's got 350 staterooms, right? It's a baby ship, I call it. And so that gives us the ability to go up the river in Seville, to park in the city center in Bordeaux, and to actually go to places that the big ones can't. But that's just part of it. And then you got the second piece of this, what I call the three reasons why. And the second one is that we're there late nights and overnight. So mathematically, we're 45% of every one of our itineraries are late nights or overnight, and our closest competitor is 38. So we really own that space.
Mhm.
But the emotional aspect of that is way more important than the math of it, right? And then the third piece that's really about destination immersion is that we do what we call as amazing evening, like amazing evening, but we're playing on
Mhm.
Azamara. And what that is that we develop it and we curate it, and we take our guests, all of our guests, all 700 guests, to this event on shore that they absolutely could not do on their own. And that's the third reason that we own destination immersion. So we go where they can't, we stay later and do wonderful things. And then we do this as amazing evening that no matter how hard you try, you couldn't do it on your own.
I love it. Oh, it just, you paint such a picture of this. It almost sounds like, when we first were introduced to river cruising, right? It was these little rivers and you're getting into all these tiny places. And I'm kind of envisioning that same thing only on the ocean. We're just
Exactly.
getting into smaller towns with a little bit
And
of
you
a
know,
bigger ship.
it really is. And people have actually told me since I started a couple months ago, they said, Dondra, your competitors are not just cruise lines and
Mm,
even river cruises, but your competitor is also hotels. Because what you do is you're basically, in many cases, you're providing a hotel that just happens to be sitting on water while
right.
you allow people to go and do these things, go to these, five-star dining experiences in Bordeaux or Santorini or whatever. And then you just come back to your hotel and sleep. And the next day you do something different, right? So you
Hmm.
think about Istanbul, Turkey, and one day you want to go out and see the mosque and you want to see what's going on. And then you go to dinner somewhere, and the next day you go get on a plane and you go do the hot air balloon rides, and you come back, and now we're leaving and going to the next place. You cannot do that on
Right.
on some of the major cruise lines. You just
Hmm.
simply can't. But we love them because they bring cruisers to the industry.
Right. Right. That's the introduction, and you're the immersion. Um,
Exactly.
I want to switch gears just a little bit and kind of talk about you as a business leader.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of, rule that you live by when you enter a new role or project that you say, I'm hands off, I'm just listening. Like, do you have a rule that you live by as you've entered into this new role?
So there's a couple. Number one is, oh, hold on. I just realized that my battery's going down, and I'm like,
Uh-oh.
Jesus. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. If you lose me, it's because my
Yep.
battery's going down. And I
If
don't
we
want to
lose you,
stop.
we'll see you next week, and thank you so much.
So two things. Number one, I learned a long time ago from my mentor. His name is Jack Williams. I worked for him, and he went from the airline business and he came to the cruise business, and humbly he brought me. And he said, Dondra, let me give you a piece of advice. The most important thing you can do is put yourself in the middle and surround yourself with people that are really good at the things that you're not great at. And
Mm,
not that you're bad at them, right? There's just not a lack of confidence. But people either have things they're really good at or just okay at. You surround yourself with people that are really good at those things that you're just okay at and listen to them.
mm,
And that has served me well for almost 40 years. The second thing is that I believe with all my heart that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And what I've learned is if you will just be humble enough to understand you're not the smartest, be humble enough to understand that other people have great perspectives and great ideas. So take a step back and let other people listen and lead, and you learn. Take a step back, listen and learn.
mm.
And what you're doing is empowering people. They'll feel valued and you'll get great ideas. And there's a quote, it's an unknown quote, so we don't know who said it, that said, create a team that is so strong that no one knows who the leader is.
Hmm.
And that's my philosophy.
Wonderful. We can't wait to hear more next week. I'm so excited. I'm more jazzed than ever now. So we'll see you next week at KHM's Destination Success. And just thank you so much. We know you're busy, and to be able to spend some time with us is just a true pleasure.
It means the world to me. I couldn't do it without you. And for anybody who's listening, thank you for loving this business, whether you're a customer or a travel advisor. And just know that if you come to Azamara, we will deliver on the promise and take good care of you. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank
Bye.
you. We'll see you next week. Ah, you guys, amazing, right? Um, yeah, I could sit there. That's a 2 hour long conversation about leadership and how to work in a role like that. So we might have to do a follow up to that. Part two with Dondra. Okay, so it is National Emoji Day. So it's time to switch gears just a little bit and bring on Sami from our marketing team. And because Sami's here, it's also time for me to whip out my t shirt I know you can't be surprised by this. I got to change my camera angle just a little bit. I thought, well, Dondra gets the professional, but of course I own a poop emoji t-shirt, Sami. This
I love
was
it. I love
this
it.
was the uniform for the mother-son amazing race in like 2014, 2015 with my son. So you see there's a theme here. He's now 17 and I believe he's grown out of this phase, but mom still keeps all the material. But you are here today because you're kind of our social media guru at KHM.
Yeah.
And so I want you to share with us, like, why would we use these things? Is it professional to use them? How does it help us get that traction when we're posting on social media? Or does it?
Yeah. So first off, happy National Emoji Day. I'm glad you're celebrating. I wish I had some emojis with me, but I'll just use my imagination. But yeah, emojis, they're a great way to add some fun to your content, to your post, and just to your brand in general. So, I mean, there's many uses. So it's not just about, having fun and stuff, but there's also like professional uses for it. There's a lot of different opportunities, whether it's, adding a fun emoji at the end or something I personally like to do is like, if I have bullet points in a post, instead of using
Mm,
bullet points, maybe I'll use like a star emoji and then put a star emoji instead of a bullet point on each one. So there's tons of ways to kind of incorporate the emojis, and it kind of brings you closer to the audience, makes you more personable, and less so business savvy, more like you're talking to someone that you're actually going to book with.
one on one.
Yeah.
Can you overuse emojis?
Yeah, so you don't want to put like 8 to 10 emojis, back to back to back. Just kind of splice it into your posts, into your captions, and everything. Whether it's at the end of your caption or at the very beginning. It's a great way to draw attention to something important. So like
Mm,
sometimes I'll use that alarm emoji, that alert. If this is a line that's really important and I need someone to see it, I'll put one maybe at the beginning, one at the end of the sentence, just so it stands out from the rest. Other than that, like, I'll sprinkle some in, maybe a heart at the end of something. You said your favorite emoji is a poop emoji, but
I don't usually use that in a work setting.
no,
That's
no.
really hard.
But one of my like go-to ones, especially in the professional setting, is that emoji with the star eyes. So like that you're excited about something. So like I'll put that at the end just to show it's a fun way of showing your excitement.
I think I read somewhere there was like a dictionary because people were using the wrong ones for the wrong thing, but
Yeah,
it's like what you think it means, right?
yeah,
It's not necessarily what it's actually intended for.
right.
I know internally we have people use them to display like where they are,
Hmm.
like the palm tree for vacation
Right.
and the airplane if they're traveling for work or something like that. And there are many times where I have no idea what it means, so I have to hover over it
Yeah, yeah,
so
for
I
sure.
can I can understand, what someone's trying to tell me.
Yeah.
Is there a poor way to use emojis?
So like you said, emojis can be interpreted differently. So I know we joked about that one meme that we saw. So there's an example there, like for example, the skull emoji. Um, it may not mean it's a skull emoji, but people use it in the context of something's funny, and they're like, "Oh, I'm dead. That's so funny." So that's a way to use that emoji. Or for example, the crying emoji. Sometimes, yeah, it's for something sad, but like a lot of the time, I know me and my friends like we use it when something's funny, like I'm crying laughing. It's so funny. So,
Mhm.
there's a lot of meanings to different emojis. You just have to make sure you're using it in the right context and make sure it fits the sentence that you're pairing it with.
Right, right. Okay, so that's is that a key there that use it in conjunction with a sentence, or can I use them alone
So there's
in my
opportunities.
social media?
Yeah. So like for example, like if you're posting on your Instagram story, you don't necessarily need a caption for that. So like for example, like you can post that you're on the plane, your view out the plane window. And then you can put like some plane emojis. You don't have to put a whole caption with it, but still it's a nice way to, add some engagement. And then there's even like on some social media platforms, they have like those stickers or those GIFs, those emoji GIFs that you can use. So you can
Mhm.
even add those onto your post as well. And it's adding that emoji without having to add a sentence to it.
Wonderful. Any final thoughts on the topic of emojis?
Just have some fun with it, and there's certain times called for certain emojis, so just make sure you're pairing those emojis with the proper times and the exact places for them, and yeah, just take advantage of them, because it's a great way to engage with your audience, and not only just your captions, even when you're responding to messages or responding to comments, when you're talking to someone one-on-one, it's, adding a heart at the end just to show your
Mm-hmm.
appreciation, or a smiley face. It's a great way to engage with your audience.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
Hopefully we'll see you next week. Viewers, if you're KHM agents and you're coming to Destination Success next week and you have questions about emojis or anything else social media related, Sami will be there to answer your questions. So we'll see you next week, Sami. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'll see everyone next week.
All right. All right, you guys, thanks for joining us today. Thank you to all of our sponsors. As I mentioned, Destination Success is next week, so we typically do not have an episode when we have an event going on, but we will be dropping a really special episode. It's an interview with a Globus family of brands tour director from Italy. So we hope you'll tune in next week for that. We'll see you back here live on the 31st. And who are we talking with? We're chatting with Universal Parks and Resorts, so it will absolutely be epic. We'll see you next time, guys. Have a great week.